Hey, IDC Church family, Pastor Shane here, and I am joined by Walter Strickland, who is one of our newest elder candidates. And we just wanted to kind of continue the series that we've been doing of recording videos, helping you get to know our elders and our elder candidates. And so Walter and I are just going to chat for a little while, just going to ask him some questions about himself, about his life and his family and his ministry, and just give you an opportunity to kind of hear his heart and get to know some of the fun details. So thanks for taking the time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, let's start with just big general questions. Tell us about yourself and your family. I guess people are most interested in your family, so let's go there.
But you're right. So, I'll start with my own nuclear family that I grew up in. Yeah. I'm a middle child, which is always
explains so much.
Yes, it does. It does. So people get to know that, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I got you. You make sense." Yeah. So I have two sisters. My older sister is 51 weeks older than I am, so I was a mistake. But my mom promises that. Yeah, that's what she says. She says, "You're surprised, but we love you." You know. And then my younger sister is 16 months younger than I am, so we were just grew up together, so we were like freshman, sophomore, junior, and all went to college. We were all in and out of college in 6 years, same school. So anyway, middle child, but really my family now is there's six of us. Mm-hmm. Myself, Stephanie, my wife. We've been married for a decade now. Yeah, time flies. Uh-huh. We'll talk more about her later. But then also we have 4 kids, one of whom is with the Lord. Okay. Her name is Hope Ayana, which Ayanos for the Greek nerds out there means eternal. And so we knew that she was very ill in utero. Okay. And so around 18 weeks, we went to find out gender of the baby. Okay. And then we got really tough news that day. And so,
and she was your first.
Yes, she's our first. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she, it's July 1st trip today. Yeah. And so June 21st is her birthday, so we just celebrated her birthday. And we have so Kendra says that her favorite food is ice cream. And then that's what she said when she was like 4. So we get ice cream. And then Kaya says her favorite food is also Chick-fil-A. So we have ice cream and Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
And so
not a bad birthday, right?
Yeah. So heaven forbid her birthday's ever on a Sunday. Right. So so anyway, so she's our first daughter. We love her. Stephanie and I, we've been really changed by her life in many ways. We were in our first year of marriage when that happened, so we kind of aged in our marriage. Right. It feels like when we experienced, all that was about her. And so then we have Kendra, who is 7. Okay. And if you probably heard her around church because she keeps talking, And then we have Kaya, who's 5. Uh-huh. And then Trey Walter III, who's 3.
Excellent.
And so that's our little crew.
And the girls, at least, my kids have experienced very, very maternal, for the most part. They like to care for younger kids and everything.
Right. Uh-huh. So Trey has 3 moms.
Right, exactly.
And so and it's funny, if he wants to be really, really mothered, coddle, he goes to Kendra. Okay. But if he wants to be hey, big sister, let's go run around and but if you skin your knee, I got you. Uh-huh. That's Kaya.
Cool. Yeah. That's really fun. Excellent. Okay. You were raised in a believing home?
Yeah. So and this is neat because my parents, they both came to know Christ in college. Okay. They both were in religious homes. They were in church a lot, weekly even, but they didn't hear the gospel. They heard about what was wrong. They heard that they've sinned. They got a lot of do this, do that, sort of not legalism in a fundamentalist way, but just not a lot of gospel, not a lot of Jesus to fix the problem. And so they just went and found a Bible study, both of them independently of each other. Huh. My mom grew up in New York. My dad grew up in Chicago. They met in Baltimore at Morgan State University. Okay. And so which is just a predominant HBCU. Howard is in D.C. and their sister school is right up the road in Baltimore. Cool. And so that's where my parents went. Yeah. They both found Bible studies, are preaching the gospel there. They get saved. 2 years later, they met each other.
Huh. Okay.
And so they were both super young believers when we were growing up.
When you came along. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was neat seeing their sort of passion for the Lord. It was kind of raw. Sure. Especially when I was younger, and then just strive after godliness. And so, my parents' testimony is really, really important in my own life, especially as I would go over to friends' houses and to see the difference between our home and their home. Yeah. Not that I'm judging their homes, but, we had a godly home. We had a home where grace was present, where forgiveness was present. And so these things that, I was learning about, I didn't know that they were of Christ. But my dad, one day, we were driving from our house in Bakersfield, California, to Oakland, California, on Interstate 5, just right up the middle of the state. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, well, we could go up the coast, but it would take like 45 minutes more. And my dad was very efficient.
Okay. Yeah. We're not here for the scenery.
We're trying to get there, son. Okay. We're not trying to go all out of our way, even though it'd be like nice and beautiful. Right. It's like, Pacific Coast Highway, which is like known around the world. Right. My dad was like, okay.
No, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're driving.
Yeah.
Up the middle of the state, not the pretty part.
Yeah, which is really ugly, but so it was a great time to talk.
Okay.
And so my dad, he begins to just sort of stumble through, not because he didn't know it, but because he was just nervous to tell his own kids the gospel. Huh. And it began to be evident that, the things that I love about my home are because of Jesus.
Born out of this. That's good.
Yeah. And so my older sister and I, we accepted Christ there. We sort of confirmed our affirmation of Christ through a prayer on the freeway, and
Did your dad stop, or he just keeps driving?
He just kept driving.
There was no like, let's stop and have a moment. It's just like, we're just gonna keep going.
Well, efficiency, bro. he got a 2 for 1. I got 2 kids in the kingdom, and we're still gonna make record time.
That's good.
And so we just did it right there. My mom's sitting there crying the whole time. My dad, he wasn't crying, but he was driving, so that's a good thing.
Right.
And so, my parents, from before even I got saved, seeing their Christ-like example through their testimony made the gospel make sense, because I saw it lived. And then, they just, my parents were awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And they really discipled the 3 of us very well.
That's good. So you point that you see that as your conversion kind of experience?
Yeah. So I was fairly young.
Yeah.
But at the same time as my world grew, God grew to be sovereign over it all. Mm-hmm. And so I do point back to that as being where I got saved, even though I was 7. Yeah. But yeah. So just as I was, I had a conversation as like I learned about things like the Holocaust, which was devastating to me. I just can't even imagine that kind of atrocity. But as I learned about things like slavery and stuff like that, I'm like, well, God is sovereign over that too.
So like some helpful categories to help you kind of
understand,
not like it makes sense, but to process and kind of respond appropriately.
Yeah, my God is so big, so strong, they're so mighty. Like in those simple truths, they if you can actually, this happened, but God is bigger than that. He's stronger than that. This is not going to be one day ever again because of him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I believe that.
That's good.
And so at 13, there's like a crisis of faith. At 17, at 24, like these benchmarks in my life, where I really had to say, okay, is God still in control? Is he still Lord over this stuff? And I said, yeah.
That's good.
And so
that's good. So let's jump to the end of high school. I think you shared before you were planning on playing basketball. Is that right?
Yeah.
That was like the trajectory you were on? What happened?
So, plan on playing basketball in college. A lot of my life was sort of like geared around that. I mean, I was still a believer, but basketball was really kind of like vying with Christ, not that I wasn't walking away from the faith, but just, centrality.
Sure.
I was getting ready to go play basketball in college. And then I had a couple of, smaller colleges come early on. They come really early in the season because they don't have a shot when all the big schools come at the end. And so I sort of said, no. So then there's a couple schools that were going to come on, I think it was like March 18th, UNLV was the one I wanted to go to. Jerry Tarkanian's last recruiting class, which those of you who are basketball junkies, you know what I'm talking about.
Right. I'm just nodding along. I have no idea.
Sure. So he led the Running Rebels to a couple championships at the end of the 80s, and so they were like a powerhouse.
Cool.
So, but that was a couple years later. But anyway. So I tore my ACL and meniscus in my left knee, which ended my season before they came.
Yeah.
And, the Lord got my attention through that. He really began to show me, the hollow nature of the things that I was pursuing. Basketball as I remember one night praying, I was like, Lord, this is what you're going to do for me. I'm going to go to UNLV. I'm going to be on ESPN, and I'm going to give you the praise for it all. So
Don't you love my plan?
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that awesome?
Right.
You're
welcome.
Yeah. You'll be made so much of,
Right.
because I'll be on ESPN. And so I made this deal with God. But then, like, soon after that, I was just like, moments after that, I actually prayed that, and then I felt conviction by the Spirit, and I was like, that's not right. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to fix it, but it's not quite right. Yeah. And then a week or two later, there goes my knee. And then as I was laying there on the couch recovering from surgery, because I was a leader in my youth group, playing basketball, captain of the basketball team, captain of the drum line at a really big high school. So there's always things going on. And so the Lord really used that to just stop me. Yeah. And as a senior and looking into college years, to reevaluate my whole life, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you wanting to go play basketball? Why are you wanting to after go get an MBA just to make a lot of money? Sure. And, there's more to life than just material things and having a corner office overlooking the a river in Manhattan, which is really my dream. Really? Yeah, it was. I said I'm going to have a corner office overlooking a river in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So
But here we are talking about being a pastor at IDC. Which you haven't mentioned anything about, like that wasn't a part of the aspirations or anything. So when did even just the trajectory towards kind of pastoral ministry or ministry more broadly, when did that enter?
Yeah. So it was really when I was on the couch.
Okay.
The Lord just had me raise those questions. I didn't really know all that it entailed, and if I go back even further, so that was like February of my senior year. If I go back to September of my senior year, that's 9/11. Okay. So that's 2001. And so a couple of buddies of mine, we really just looked to our campus as like missionaries trying to give answers to these big questions that people were trying to ask. Right. And for the first time that publicly, because 9/11 just really caused us to ask a new set of questions. Right. And so we were trying to make sense of all this stuff as seniors in high school. And we said, we have an answer. We can't explain exactly why they did everything, but we know who's in control of all this stuff. And so, I had a real just surge of passion for ministry and just sort of proclaiming the good news of Christ. Didn't really know that it was going anywhere, but that really was a sort of a catalyst. And then thinking through, when I got hurt, and I was literally on the couch for 7 days with my dog Max, just trying to figure out, okay, so what does all this have to do with life? And through that, the Lord just really sort of said, hey, I want you to go into some sort of ministry and sort of get prepared for that. Yeah. And so I switched my major from business to biblical and theological studies at Cedarville University, even before I got on campus. And I had my pastors walking alongside me. They said, to the best we understand, we confirm that the Lord is sort of, doing this in you. And in fact, we were like wondering when you were going to come up to us and tell us. We didn't want to like manipulate you in that direction, but there's these things we've seen in you where this makes sense. That's so good. And my parents also said that as well. They said, yeah, we can definitely see how the Lord could be doing this. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So like, I guess I go to like my, what do I do now? Like, my pastor, I go to school, get prepared, and then sort of go from there. So that's how ministry began to sort of come in, and this sort of been a consistent theme, in my life since then.
For the last little season, at least, you have not been pastoring at any local church, and not this one. What have you been doing like professionally? What's your day job been? And how does that even fit into the kind of overall ministry desires? And stuff?
For sure. So for the last 8 years, I've been a professor at Southeastern Seminary, and just doing a number of things related to churchy things. In the SBC or in at helping with other Christian schools and just other Christian universities. And so really just teaching has been a big part of it, in which teaching is a big part of what it means to shepherd and pastor. It's definitely not the totality of it, but and even as I was a pastor for several years before going to be a professor, so it just really it was a great time of learning, developing, teaching those who are going to be pastors and missionaries and things like that. But really the Lord just kept pulling me back to the local church. I mean, I came to seminary to go pastor a church somewhere or do something in ministry, but the Lord just really showed me a need, where teaching and writing and things like that could help with that. Yeah. But then I feel like I've been brought back to my first love in many ways. That's good. And so being here with family at Imago Dei, a growing understanding of, our families and the local church are two of the most central institutions in all of life that God has they are the central institutions of the cornerstones of life in society. And so that theological conviction coupled with just like my desire that was ongoing to serve the local church. And then, by God's grace, having gone and sort of done stuff here and there, it just, at the end of the day, the local church is the bride of Christ, and serving at other local churches, preaching at other local churches are not serving at your local church. And that can never be, you just can't trade that off,
Yeah, it's a one-to-one exchange there.
Yeah, because here people, they know me, they know my family, they know my struggles, there's just something super important about that. And so just couldn't ever get away from that. And then the Lord just allowed us to to give us freedom now to go and pursue that here at Among the Day. So,
that's good. Amen. Yeah, that's one of the things I really appreciate about just kind of watching you and your family and kind of walking alongside is getting to see how you do have lots of opportunities kind of out there, and yet you guys have really been really faithful to serve in preaching, but also in childcare. Like all the things and come alongside the church here. And so I just think you're been really set us a good example on that. Let's back up a little bit. When did you meet Stephanie?
Okay, yeah. So she and I met so I was accompanying somebody, because I was a pastoral intern for about 2 years, and so I was leading some like the greeter ministry at a church, and so, but I was like the nice friend guy, for all the single ladies, like, oh yeah, Walter, he's nice, he's a friend, and so I got invited to like accompany all like the women in the ministry to like their office functions, because I was like a safe guy, you know? And so I was at this like office gathering for some company, I don't even know, but with a good friend, and then she knew this other girl who was it's kind of convoluted. So it's kind of weird. So we're in this atrium for this like office party. And then there's like a salsa, like a salsa dancing place / food place.
And you said that's
next door.
Where I need to be.
Well, there was salsa dancing at the food place. But Stephanie and her friends, they got bad information, so they were there early. So there's like a shared restroom, and then like they end up saying, "Hey, come crash this office party that we're part of." And then so Stephanie and her friends, they ended up just like there where I was, and so there's one of the girls that she was with, I knew, and so I was introduced to like the whole group.
Interesting.
Stephanie was in that group. We didn't get much chance to talk there that night, but Stephanie was like, hey, Natalie, the girl that I knew, she's like, yeah, I'd love to get to know that guy if there's a chance. So like 6 weeks later, there was like a birthday party. In the church where I was, like when the young adults do something, they all do something. And so like everyone's invited. It's sort of like, this is no invitation needed. So Stephanie came to that. And then it was funny. I was sort of, we were doing shag dancing, which is like a step dance, which is, we were at my home church and we were telling this lady that we met shag dancing, and she's like, red face because it's not what it sounds. And so so it's like a South Carolina dance, so this girl's birthday, she's from South Carolina, we were shag dancing, completely, above board. So and so I was like dancing with all these like, people, and they're like, hey, have you met Stephanie? And like, because they all knew that like she wanted to like hang out and stuff. And so I was like, this is weird. And so eventually I did meet Stephanie. And sure enough, we ended up talking for like 3 hours that night. And I was there at a place where I was seeing like old friends and stuff like that. So I really wasn't interested in meeting anybody new, but
detour.
She just completely snatched my attention. We talked about, we laughed a lot. We talked about church. We talked about family. We talked about like, I'm like, this girl's different.
That's good.
There's like depth here. She's not just a pretty face. And so we ended up, getting together and then getting together some more. Then, just the 4 months of getting to know each other, dating for 9 months, engaged for 6, and now we're 10 years later.
That's good.
And so she's just the joy of my life.
And you guys have gotten to do some ministry kind of together, just like brag on her a little bit. Where do you see the Lord's gifts in her, and how does she like to serve and serve the Lord?
So part of that conversation was she was a part of a ministry called Campus Outreach. And they're very discipleship focused and very local church focused, like discipleship in local churches. And so that's a pretty significant part of her life and her own discipleship, because she got saved in college. and then was really sort of brought up in that. And so I always say that she had me under ecclesiology,
Okay.
the centrality of the local church,
Right.
and then her ability. I know
That's so good.
That's so like theology nerdy,
Right,
but
absolutely.
But she started because she was like, yeah, I'm a part of a college ministry, but really the local church is it. And like I was like, really?
Talk to me about this.
Tell me more about that. And she keeps going on and on.
That's
And
so
so like
good.
part of that 3-hour conversation where we first talked was about ecclesiology.
That's
I'm
so
like,
funny.
huh?
Yeah.
I like this girl.
That's really good.
And so, but she was just a wonderful like disciple maker. I was able to see that because I just sort of put myself in her world for about 4 months when I was kind of getting to know her.
Yeah.
I met all the girls that she was like interacting with on the college campuses. And so I was like, wow, she's really got a knack for bringing people in, not just bringing people into the group, but really bringing them into Christ and Christ likeness. And then when we first were married, I was a pastor at a church called Faith Baptist Church in Youngsville, North Carolina. And so we were able to lead a small group together. She discipled several ladies. A couple of those ladies are actually at Imago Dei as members. Yeah. And so and we've kept in touch with them through various seasons of life. One of whom wrote the recommendation I had to have from a friend for the elder process, and so grateful for that. Yeah. And so so just really seeing her just flourish in ministry as a counselor, discipler, encourager. She's a great inquisitor. She asks great questions to get down to cut through all the mess. If someone's going through some things, well, what's the issue? Right here. Cool. Pinpointing it through questions. That's great. And so she's like a lot of times when we do like premarital counseling, we love to do it together. Yeah. And I just let her go. Cool. I kind of like open the Bible. Hey, Ephesians chapter 5. Let's kind of do this stuff. All right, baby, go. Yeah. Do your thing. Pass. Yeah. So if we ever do any premarital counseling for anybody, like
brace yourself.
Yeah. Stephanie's coming.
That's so good. No, that's good. Okay. So as you're coming on as an elder candidate, what are some of the just one or two things just about pastoral ministry and local church that you get most excited about, or you're just most looking forward to? Yeah. But ways that you're excited to use your gifts as you come on, Lord willing. Yeah. So the teaching piece is a big thing for me, but the most important part about teaching is that it doesn't just happen at like a pulpit. Sure. I think that's one of the confusions about pastor, teacher, preacher, Right. Mm-hmm. But really, I think that the majority of the time, like my passion is to bring, the Bible to bear on life. Yeah. That does happen in the pulpit, but it happens in the premarital counseling sessions that, as in our house, as our kids are sleeping above us. Those moments happen when you're by a hospital bed. Yeah. Those moments happen when you're at a graveside, even as you're interacting, just in a chance meeting after a church service, hey, service is over, we're talking, what's going on in your life? Okay, well, just encourage people in the scriptures. That's good. And so, I think that's that's what I get most excited about. Yeah. And also, Imago Dei is unique in that we do have like a very well-developed leadership development program, with, just in all of its iterations, and so love to be a part of that. Yeah. And whatever way I can. And so, so if the elder piece works out or if it doesn't, that's still something I love to sort of like click around and say, hey, go do something, guys. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
So that's neat.
Excellent. Well, we're excited. Again, Lord willing, for you to come on board and for us to kind of continue to partner and for you guys to continue to use your gifts. All right, let's close with some rapid fire, unimportant questions.
Okay.
Favorite restaurant, local restaurant, let's say.
Okay. So I love seafood and Thai food, 7 out of both. So Shuckers is always a good one, and like Bangkok Thai, always a winner.
Yeah.
And Lemongrass. Give a shout out to Lemongrass, the little tiny restaurants.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Excellent. Favorite movie.
Oh man. I knew
you don't watch TV shows.
Yeah, I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
But I still didn't have anything. So growing up, I love Mighty Ducks.
Okay,
it's a great movie.
Let's just stop there. You're locked in with your favorite movie being Mighty Ducks.
One of the favorites. So I'll go way back.
That's excellent. That's all I wanted. Okay, what's something other than not work related and not, let's say, not like pastoring related, but what's something you will totally like nerd out about?
Okay.
That people might not know.
Aviation.
Aviation.
Yeah. So I was going to get a pilot's license, and I had all my money I saved up to get a pilot's license. And then I met Stephanie and spent all that money on a ring.
It's a good call.
And so, but even still, I fly a good bit, and I'm just like a little kid.
Right.
I'm that guy, if I'm on the aisle, and the person on the window is like completely unkind and leaves the shade closed and take off, I'm like, excuse me, can you put the shade up? It's takeoff. Don't you know what's happening right now?
I get on an airplane, and I'm like, this should not be possible.
Yeah,
Why are we sleeping right now? Like, this isn't magic. Yes.
We're in a tube in the sky, you know?
That's good. Okay, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Baseball, basketball, football, or soccer?
Basketball.
LeBron or MJ?
This is the place where I'm outside of the scripture and things like that. In the unimportant list, I'm most convictional here. MJ.
It's MJ.
Hands down.
Okay.
Yes.
No question.
Yes, no question. I mean, I could go into that, but time's of the essence.
You've got a lot of controversy in your life, but you might have waded into something there.
Maybe I might have just doubled it.
Absolutely. No. Thanks for taking the time, man. Thanks for doing this. And obviously, IDC family want to encourage you. I want this to be an introduction, but hopefully all of you guys get an opportunity to continue to get to know Walter and Stephanie and their family, and looking forward to you guys serving the church. Continuing to serve the church.
For sure.
Yeah.